Good morning. It's 9 o'clock, Monday, July the 7th, 2014. Welcome to the Santa Rosa County Board of County Commissioners Committee meeting. Please take a minute to silence your cell phones and your other devices so we don't interrupt each other. I'll open us with a word of prayer, and Commissioner Williamson, if you would, then lead us in the pledge. Father, we thank you for the blessings that you poured out upon us and upon this nation. We thank you for our freedom. We thank you for those that defended our freedom with their very lives. Watch over us and protect us. I pray that the things that we say and do here will be pleasing in your sight. We ask this in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get into the agenda, I'll begin on my right. Commissioner Williamson, do you have any additions or changes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have one addition. It's just information only. I'd like to give a recap of my town hall about the Judicial Center.
Okay, sir. Yeah, that's a... Yeah, we can add that. You prior to or after the presentation, won't we put it after the architect's presentation? Your update there.
That'll be fine, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Commissioner Salter?
No additions.
Commissioner Cole?
No additions.
Commissioner Lynchard?
No changes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Walker? Ms. Jones? Mr. Blaylock? Ms. Bell? Okay, everybody's good. All right, Economic Development Committee, Commissioner Salter.
Mr. Chairman, we have two items today. Both of them are like place order for Thursday. The first one is discussion of application for 2014-2015 Florida Defense Reinvestment Grant, DRG cycle. The second one is discussion of application for 2014-2015 Florida Infrastructure Grant, DIG cycle. The grant committee will meet tomorrow afternoon to discuss both of these items, and they'll make a recommendation back to us for Thursday's meeting. So with that said, I'd like to move both of these to Thursday's agenda without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next is the Administrative Committee. Pardon me. Next is the Administrative Committee, and we have 13 items. Item number 1 is discussion of an amended source-separated recyclables transportation agreement with the Emerald Coast Utilities Authority, ECUA, regarding the self-insurance provision. We have to have a decision on this today. Ms. Jones, would you please brief this for us?
Sure. You all approved this agreement at your set of meetings 2 weeks ago to begin today. However, since that time, we learned that ECUA is not a completely self-insured entity. They do carry some insurance coverage. So if you will, if you could reapprove the agreement with just the one sentence change that I emailed to you all, I believe ECUA's plan is still to begin hauling today, so nothing about that has changed.
Questions from the board? I recommend approval. Recommend we move this to Thursday without objection.
Sir.
Oops, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is an action item, so I recommend approval without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Thanks for that, Commissioner Salter. Item number 2 is discussion of a proposed judicial facility site adjacent to the current courthouse by the consulting architects HOK. And then after that, we will have a follow-on by Commissioner Williamson. HOK's here. I saw them a moment ago. Are you ready?
We got Michael Broussard with Hatchmont McDonald. That's a local partner with HOK. And in your packet is the presentation of the review of the proposed site, essentially to the south of the current courthouse, and how it could be configured.
You guys ready?
Yes, sir. Floor is yours.
Good morning. Michael Broussard with Hatchmont McDonald, 5111 North 12th Avenue, Pensacola, Florida, 32504. Duncan Broy could not make it this morning, so he asked me to provide you guys with the commission with an update on our review of the downtown Milton site. So basically, we're looking focused this morning just on that particular site. Briefly, we'll kind of go over key parameters, and then what our plan is our next step after we complete our review of this. We'll present you guys with a matrix like we did for the other sites, and you'll have three sites on that matrix. One being the downtown Milton site, one being the jail site just north of the jail, and then the other being the site on Highway 90 towards the jail, the Cotton Byram site. Okay, so that'll be the matrix, and you'll see them juxtaposed right next to each other. Getting to the downtown site, is that?
I think, Michael, I think I don't know that we're talking about the site north of the jail. I think the three sites they were talking about would be the
90,
which is P. Ridge
okay.
site, the Byram property site, and then potentially this site.
My mistake, excuse me.
Oh, no, you're good.
This is a layout of the downtown site. A couple of things to note. We show it's the same exact building footprint that you see on all the other sites. That has not changed, and we put it on the site downtown. You can see it takes all the site all the way from just south of the existing historical courthouse all the way down to the railroad tracks to fit it in. That doesn't change. We didn't anticipate it really taking less than that. We have in this particular layout spaces for about 210 parking spaces. So you'll see it really doesn't compare to the other sites. You have less parking. There are opportunities for shared parking downtown. We did discuss that with the city. There is not an issue with parking based on the abilities to be able to provide about 200 spaces out there. We do have retention located adjacent to the railroad properties, railroad right-of-way. And other than that, access you have separate access on the west side of the building for prisoner transport and for judges as well. And with the entry being on the east side facing the river. So that's how it would lay out with steps down. Grade would be approximately 11 feet, which would put you 1 foot above flood elevation. You get to the next slide for just briefly. The way it's laid out right now, the existing building completely stays in service. I know that was a challenge last time it was laid out on the site because of the way it was located, but this does allow the existing building to stay in operation with some minimal impact. As I stated earlier, the main floor is a little lower. Back when we first laid this out years ago, we were actually trying to utilize the old building, and so we had the finished floor up at 17, which is the approximate floor grade for the old building. So this works out a lot better. We're able to move it a little further south because the grade falls to the river as we go to the south. As I said, the ramp and parking, you can see that main entrance facing the river. One of the big issues we noted on this is that particular layout required you dealing with 5 separate property owners. There are 5 parcels with a total of about 3 acres that would be necessary to acquire if you want to locate it, that particular site plan. So that's the biggest issue that we saw in our review of the site. One advantage is we do allow with this particular site, you have the future use of the historic courthouse for growth. We did look at not only do you have 5 parcels. If you go back to and I don't have a laser pointer. The pond and where you see the pond and the parking lot adjacent to the pond, thank you. Those are private parcels. You go just north of that and just north of Pine Street there and immediately, those are both private parcels. And another private parcel just immediately to the north of there. That's the 5 property owners you'd be dealing with. We did, as we began looking at this, identify other properties which we probably would want to take a little bit further look at. Is if you go One of the things we noted is the Blackwater River in this area is tidally influenced, which means from a stormwater standpoint, you only have to provide treatment. Okay, you don't have to provide detention to it. It makes a huge difference in your pond volumes. So one of the things we would want to look at is providing stormwater access and direct discharge to the Blackwater River. We looked at the parcels immediately to the east of the site. Roger, if you can, right up in there, those parcels, there are 5 parcels along there, 2 of which are owned by the city of Milton. The other 3 are small, privately held parcels. That might be an opportunity to look at. You could put a treatment pond that could also be an amenity, a wet pond. It looks like you have enough area in there. We give you direct stormwater discharge, and actually could be quite a nice amenity. We didn't lay it out yet. That's just basically, I started looking at that on Friday about that possibility. If you did do that route, you would not need the 2 parcels located south of Pine Street where the pond and the parking lot. You probably could eliminate at least one of those parcels and look at this site immediately to the east. That's our basically our first impression of it. We didn't see any really constraints from being able to technically fit the courthouse there, get some parking, be having a nice functional site, but with the only constraint being the dealing with the property owners. You have to acquire other property somehow, somewhere in the immediately adjacent to the area, and but other than that, we don't see a problem with the site as far as being able to house your new courthouse.
Thank you very much. I have a question, and then we'll open it up to the others, and I'm sure the public may have a question of you as well. What's the time to completion construction cycle?
Excuse me?
Time frame to build. If we could do shovels in the ground today, how big a project construction-wise is this?
I wanted to say it was an 18-month construction period, is what I recall. I would say you're looking at a solid 14 months. 12 months is pretty compressed. 18 months, I don't think I think 18 months would be a little bit more realistic, and you're not paying a premium for accelerated construction time frames. But I think you're looking at a solid 18 months everywhere.
Yeah, done right is timely enough. We don't want to rush it. Anybody else wish to have a comment before we go to the public? Yes, sir, Commissioner Cole.
Thank you. Michael, several things I wanted to point out to you. So as you're developing this, one of the parcels you just mentioned, which is the parcel that would be indicated with a little, there was a little house right there where towards the river on the east side of this property.
Okay.
That's already well underway, and plans for a restaurant to be built there. They plan to be out of the ground here.
On the east side?
Yes.
On the river?
So that kind of takes that off. The other thing, too, I've been in touch recently with Federal Highway. Federal Highway is looking at that route just north of the railroad tracks, which, of course, with a bridge turning, it's going to have to be, not right up against the tracks. But Federal Highway's eyeballing that for to relieve some of the capacity for Highway 90 coming through Milton.
Okay. So
those are two, things right there, right off the bat that I want to make sure you had a heads up on, because they're pretty. And then, of course, there's one person there that I've been in touch with several times that owns that property in the let's call it the north side of Pine Street, the corner of Pine and Wheeling. Mm-hmm. They inherited that from their family and have no intentions or no urge to sell that property whatsoever. Now, the other property owners, there's for sale signs on those. But that piece of property, I've approached them several times because the city and the county could use that property to expand. They're nice enough to let us use that property when we have venues downtown, as long as we keep it insured and keep it mowed. That's the two criteria. But they've indicated to me they have no interest whatsoever in selling it. She inherited from family. It's been in the family a long time. So some hurdles right there I could see immediately for this plan. So, thank you.
No doubt. We will make sure in our matrix to note each of those items.
Just one comment on that. If my memory serves me right, the FDOT has to look at all the possible route solutions to the problem, but that particular route that Commissioner Cole just discussed is not a very likely route because of the Florida Forever thing. Mm-hmm. So although they will look at it,
that's why they're looking at that, because the one I suggested that was further south, which would connect Old Highway 90 and Ward Basin Road and South Airport, has to cross an island that's Florida Forever. Vernon Compton and I are going to Tallahassee and going to talk to Federal Highway and the state about that.
My memory was that it also came on up the river as well. But anyway, you can deal with those.
No,
those are nuts and bolts. That's what we hire you for.
And we'll certainly identify each of those in the matrix where you'll get a lot more detail.
Yes, anybody else have anything, Commissioner Williams?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Salter.
I continue to have concerns about trying to force that courthouse on that location, especially with 5 different property owners. But I'm willing to wait until the July 21st meeting. I think that's when y'all gonna come back with some additional information for us. So those are my comments.
Anybody else? All right, sir. I appreciate it. Commissioner Williamson, you had some comments to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to give a little bit of an update from the town hall meeting that I had on July 1st, Tuesday, at the Pace Community Center. First of all, I wanted to thank Joy Sabuka and Sarah Whitfield for helping set that up. And the county made some maps for people to come in, look at the maps on the way that HOK had everything, the plats and everything. It was a good meeting. There was spirited debate, for sure. There was lively discussion, and that's everything that makes this country great. So it was a good meeting. Lots of questions that I couldn't answer. Lots of questions that I don't know that anybody could truly answer 100%. But we fielded 38 comments from 28 different individuals. There were about 50 people there total. Some pros and cons I wanted to give on just all 3 sites while we have a minute. The Pea Ridge site, pro, was somebody said we should choose the land because it's the best, not because of the cost. They felt that it would have the most immediate economic impact. The cons were that the property was inflated price and that 90 was already congested. Some of the pros for now downtown, the city would help with some fees to keep the cost lower. Also, that the courthouse, it would support the initial support staff as far as attorneys and everything that have already built their businesses downtown around the courthouse. The cons to the downtown site that I heard were who in their right mind puts building in a floodplain, and that property has to be purchased, which was just mentioned. East Milton, some of the pros were it's close to the jail for prisoner transportation, and that we had space for future growth in that area in general. Some of the cons were the economic impact may take longer for us to see results coming back, and also there were some traffic concerns about getting to East Milton. Just some general other comments. Some people felt we should sell off land if we don't need it. There was this comment that this is a 50-year decision that the board needs to choose wisely. Stop buying property. Some confusion about the side of the jail being taken off and not being part of it. They built a serviceable building, not a Taj Mahal, which I think we all are in agreement with that. And then also one of the things that I heard the most, and this came from people who supported all 5 or all 3 sites, and that was there's a lot of confusion on this, that they felt that if the board chose one site that we may be able to get us a courthouse this go around. There was just a lot of confusion even at that meeting, and that was one of the resounding things that I heard a lot. And at another meeting that I spoke with Thursday, that the board needs to choose one site and let the people vote up or down. Just looking at the pure numbers, there were 38 people that voted, because on each of those maps, I had a little area where when you came in, you told the county staff where you lived, and they wrote your district number on the little sticker. After the meeting, people were able to go up and vote for their site, preferred site, or vote on that they didn't like any of the sites. Out of the 38 people that voted, 37% said East Milton, 16% said downtown, 23.5% said Pea Ridge, and 23.5% said no tax at all, or no, none of the sites that were chosen. So again, it was a very good discussion, spirited debate. I think we have a golden opportunity here to finally get us a courthouse, but I think we do need to listen to the public sentiment and I think that we need to choose wisely between now and November to make sure we get this courthouse that's needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I echo those. I think we'd be well served if we could perhaps, the next set of meetings, cut the sites from 3 to 2. I think that would be. I think that would serve us well. I've heard a lot of comments, and I'm sure every one of you have as well, about the purchasing property, and to include a willingness to spend some more money on property that's either donated or property that we already own to bring it up to speed. We will move this discussion to Thursday without objection.
I don't believe there's quite frankly, I mean, you can hear from the public.
We're going to let the public speak.
I don't think there's any action for the board to take on Thursday, I don't think.
We'll open this up for public comment. Please name and address for the record, and stay on topic if you will, please, because we'll interrupt you if you don't. We need to stay on the courthouse. Yes, ma'am.
Wallace Mahout, 5500 Cox Road, Milton, Florida. I attended the meeting that Jer held. It was an excellent meeting. My mother-in-law even commented on how well it was run, and that everybody was allowed to give their opinion, and that how well you ran that meeting. And I think he got a lot of information just out of that meeting. There were a lot of people there. What I was wondering about, if facts are known, like Mr. Cole said, the people that own the property inherited it and are not going to be able to sell or would not sell, and Highway 90 may be put through there. I think we need to have all of those facts and give them the HOK, because they presented their plan. They have great plans. Everything they submit is excellent. So they need that information up front. Their time costs us money. So I would say please give them all the facts that you have, or facts that are saying maybe this could happen here, so that they can do their plans correctly and not have to keep coming back. And I had a question about the downtown Milton site and the retention pond. Would that be a lined pond? And is there going to have to be any intervention by the DEP because of that pond, because it's so near to the river? And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Mr. Mullins, name and address for the record.
Sam Mullins, 5922 Allentown Road. And first off, I'd like to start with a question of the representative for HOK, if I could. Sir, what you said it would bring the property there in downtown above the floodplain. Is that going to be done with fill, or are we going to have pilings and possibly have secure parking underneath as like a secure parking area that would be for? What are the plans there? I'm just curious, because I mean I know that one time y'all talked about that.
You need to answer that on the record in the mic, if you will, please, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mike Broussard with Hatchmont McDonald. That's a very good question, because we haven't quite got to the level of detail yet for that. Both opportunities exist. Part of the issue with parking is you have to raise the building finished floor elevation high enough to get spacing under there, which is part of the issue. The building will have to be based on our best knowledge, will have to be supported by pilings. It will certainly be a structural slab one way or another is what we're thinking at this point in time, but we need a little bit more, you got a lot more work to do before we get to answering those type of questions. We're not quite there yet.
Okay. Second. Please stay. Second question along those lines, if we do that, wouldn't that satisfy bringing it above the floodplain, but also mitigate having to purchase additional parking property?
Perhaps. You perhaps can. But you're talking about raising it and parking completely under the building, which we hadn't thought about that before, quite honestly. We had secure parking in the past. We looked at just having secured parking under the building. But that could potentially, I don't think you have that kind of area, but it could potentially reduce the need for parking in the, south of Pine, in that one block down there, which we've indicated for staff parking. Okay. So that's potential.
Last question. Last question for him, then I'll go on to my statement. And when you're doing construction like that on pylons, is it a lot more expensive to do that type of construction, or is it relatively the same if you plan for it ahead of time? Cost difference versus having to bring in fill dirt versus building on pylons.
Fill dirt wouldn't necessarily obviate the need for pilings, okay? It gets you to it, but we have to have the pilings for support of the building. One way or another, we can't.
So the cost is going to be there regardless then, probably.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate you answering my questions. In all of this, I want to back up just a second and let everybody understand where a lot of the confusion got started, and where people started questioning and wanting to see something different. Back in November, we had our Tea Party meeting, and one of the commissioners came and basically said, we're going to buy property in Pace on Highway 90, P Ridge. A lot of the people scratched their heads and they said, well, years ago we had property that we put the jail and the sheriff's department on, named the road Judicial Boulevard out there. We thought that's where the future courthouse was supposed to go. We put the infrastructure in, we paid for it with our tax dollars, thought that was the long-term plan. At that point, the commissioner was at the meeting, said, well, look, hey, there were plans at one time to do that, and if that's what y'all want to do, I'll get out there and fight for it. So a lot of us citizens, we got up off the couch and we started fighting for it. As soon as we did, that same commissioner went on the radio station and said, hey, look, it's water under the bridge, we just need to move on. Well, that was 1 month after he told us that, if we all fight for it, we can do that. And in all of this, everybody that has said that, looked at this that we've talked to, it said, all we are asking our county commissioners to do is be good stewards of our tax dollars. Do not go asking for a tax to buy more property. We bought over, I don't know how much y'all paid for the Pullen property that's vacant. We've bought property for buffer zones around Whiting Field. We've paid for horse riding arenas, and we've paid for boat ramps, knowing that this courthouse was coming. Why did we not hold on to that money if we needed to purchase property in Pace, as opposed to putting tax on the people? That's what we're hearing in the public. And the public are telling us that they're not willing to purchase more property. They're willing to take on a tax because they know we need a new courthouse, but they do not want property purchased. That's what we're hearing, and I'm just want to put that to the county commissioners so that y'all can be aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Scott Kemp, 5525 Hummingbird Court, Gulf Breeze, Florida, 32563. Just a couple of thoughts. On the first bullet here on existing building stays in operation, some impact. I believe we know the biggest concern is the disability issue and the security issue right now with the existing courthouse. So to say some impact is probably a microcosm of the reality of that. Until I believe HOK comes back with a real floor plan that would, provide more detail and alleviate those concerns, I'm not sure that, some impact really captures that. Stating that, I believe that the current courthouse, in my opinion, is the right place to be. Centrally located, it's worked for, as the people who lived here forever have said, it's where it needs to be. Regarding the private property that, can't be purchased, back under the existing slide for the layout, there was that whole section of future growth. We already got that answered. I mean, over on the westbound side there, I believe it was. So what we can't buy, we can utilize there if we decide to use this property. So that is the answer to that. So I think that addressing a couple of those issues, I see that looks like they've got a good plan for getting the sheriff and the detention facility folks in and out of the back of the jail is a good start. The floodplain thing, I'll defer to HOK because they're the smart guys on that. But I just wanted to go on record as saying that, you know, once we look at those disability and security issues, number one for this site. But other than that, I think we're, you know, this is a fairly good option. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Yes, sir, Mr. Smiley, name and address, please, for the record. Wayne, you have to push a button, make your light turn on.
I got it. Wayne Smiley, Temecula, Florida. I'd like to reiterate what I'm hearing too. If you're going to buy more property, people are going to vote against the tax. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Matthew Hargraves, 7074 Milton Court, Milton, Florida. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Williamson for the town hall meeting. Attended that, and his report to y'all was exactly correct. There was a great debate, great bunch of people there, very engaged citizens. I would like to suggest as an idea that what Commissioner Williamson did for his constituents in District 1, the other commissioners consider for their districts as well. I think District 2, my district, would be well served to have a town hall meeting along the same lines as was conducted by Mr. Williamson. I think there was a lot of useful input, and I think it would serve the commissioners very well to plan an event like that for District 2. Very glad to hear from HOK, their report on the downtown side, and look forward to their report later on as far as the costs. We're continue to be encouraged that the downtown site is a good site, and it is in fact the best site for the courthouse of the future for Santa Rosa County. So we look forward to hearing their report on the costs in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is not an action item for Thursday, so we will move on in the agenda now. Item number 3 is a discussion of amended Tourist Development Council budget and the inclusion of that function within Economic Development Office. Mr. Walker.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In your packet is my memo to you and a proposed budget just for the remaining 2 months, and then kind of a comparison by the Human Resources Director regarding the compensation package, if you will, or the differences in utilizing the Landrum staffing as has been done in the past 20 years, I guess, as opposed to traditional county employees. We did survey the programs that did have the function within the structure of the county as far as looking at a salary. You see the difference really is about, Commissioner Cole had asked that at the last meeting, it's about $35,000 difference, which primarily is the insurance, FRS, those types of things, fully accounting for the leave as we currently have to do because of the auditing requirements. So this is just kind of where we are with moving that staff. I think it's something that we're comfortable with. Mr. Ogletree and I have discussed that. We believe that we can move forward with that. I'm not exactly sure. You know, the TDC's asked to be involved in the recruitment of that, and that can be done, I think, a couple of ways. I'd be concerned about abdicating or ceding that, the full selection to the board, but certainly their chairman or designee could be involved with Mr. Ogletree and I in that particular regard. And it's a mechanism that we've used in the last number of recruitments. Quite frankly, as we stole it from Commissioner Salter regarding specifically some of our senior positions, that it seems to work well to have a number of different people looking at it. So that'd just be our recommendation to this point. We currently have based on the job description that the board approved last meeting, we've got it's advertised. We have it on our website. I believe should be on the Association of Counties website by now. There's a Tourism Association website that Ms. Wilkes had given us. I believe that's currently posted on there. So I expect that we're going to get a good pool, quite frankly, to select from. I think this is going to be a very good effort.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask any questions that you've got?
Yes, sir. Any comments from the commissioners before we go to the public? Commissioner Cole?
Yes, sir. I'm going to go on record right now. I'm still going to oppose bringing these 3 new jobs into the county. For years, we were on a moratorium for hiring new people. We didn't give a raise for 5 years to our employees. I know, there was a concern with a similar happening that maybe, not to avoid something happening like occurred in Okaloosa County. But this particular Tourist Development Council has always had one of the commissioners, one of us on that and oversight, attending those meetings. We got a North and a South Council that meets, and then they meet jointly, so everything's discussed almost 3 times, and then it's still, before any purchasing's done, comes to this Board of County Commissioners. So as a staunch Republican, I'm against growing government, and here we're looking at adding 3 more people and $35,000 more to the budget. And I feel like it's worked well. It could be adjusted a little bit if there's some concerns in anything bookkeeping wise or something. But I feel like it's worked well. It's certainly recognized by the county as having as doing well. And I guess I'm all for replacing Miss Wilkes and keeping this thing rolling. I know how important it is, but I just have some heartburn with putting 3 more people on staff. So, thank you.
Commissioner Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question. Tax-paid dollars pay for these 3 individuals now. Is that correct? That we're not adding 3. We're doing some stuff a little different, and there may be a little bit of cost accrued to the county that we didn't have before, but we're not adding 3 positions that weren't there. We go through Landrum now, but taxpayers still pay for these salaries. Is that correct?
That's correct. These are paid for with the bed tax or the accommodations tax, and as would the entire department, even moving within the county structure. So you're exactly right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Salter.
My position is for the county administrator to continue to move forward, bring it in-house because of accountability. Here again, not a lot of additional expense. Move forward with your interview committee like you have in the past, and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I share those sentiments completely. I'm the commissioner appointed to the TDC, and as we've discussed before in prior years, in fact, at the inception of the TDC was set up as a separate corporate entity, and was a not-for-profit corporation. That entity has dissolved itself and done a couple things. It's left our head of the TDC without anybody that is her direct supervisor. She's a Landrum employee. There's no functional way to do it. I am a very conservative Republican. I'm also a businessman with a lot of training behind me, and this makes a lot of sense to me. We're going to open it up to the public now. If you would, please give us your name and address. And
Etta Lawler, 2532 Cedar Crest Lane, Navarre, Florida. I do not agree with placement of the TDC director under the Economic Development Office. Tourist development function is marketing to increase tourism. Economic development tax is more geared to recruitment of new businesses and promote expansion of existing businesses. The TDC director should report to the county administrator, not the economic development director, whether or not the payroll is done in-house or outsourced. Bringing the TDC director in as a county employee as opposed to the current contract agreement through Landrum does nothing but increase employee expenses funded through the bed tax revenue. The TDC structure and authorized uses of bed tax revenue is strictly governed by the Florida statutes. If the TDC staff becomes county employees versus a contracted employees, the TDC will continue to recommend use of tourist development tax proceeds. You, the Board of Commissioners, will continue to approve or disapprove the TDC recommendations, and the TDC director will continue to implement the approved recommendations. That's kind of governed that way. You can't change it. The recommendations I make, since the TDC is required to follow open government and public record laws, is the TD staff use, whether they're in-house or contracted, the county's email server, if possible, and the TDC board and subcommittee meetings agendas need to always be posted on the county calendar in advance of meetings. This somewhat is being done now, but sometimes it's not, but it should always be done. The TDC board is more qualified and has a better understanding of the duties of the tourism director than the county administrator or the economic development director. The TDC board needs to be involved in deciding which of the most qualified applicants to interview. The TDC board should be the interview committee with the county administrator, and the TDC board should be involved in the interviews with and help make the selection with the county administrator. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate you. Yes, sir.
Scott Kemp, 5525 Hummingbird Court, Gulf Breeze, Florida, 32563. One quick comment and one question. I totally agree with your plan to move forward, first off. So you have my consideration there. In the package, on the tourist development tax expenditure sheet, page 13, there was a line item that talked about promotional activities -BP for $491,000 that looks like it's been there going back through 2010. My concern is, do we know how many years that's going to be in effect? Because it's like anything, you get used to that golden goose and then all at once it goes away. And we're talking, this kind of money, $491,000 out of 1.6 million of that part of the budget, just something to consider in the long run to make sure we do have a outlier out there to have in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Scott, just a quick comment on that. You're exactly right. That's been the promotional fund that we had gotten from BP for the last number of years, and it's offset in the budget with all we do is all of that money is used to purchase marketing. I mean, we purchase ads in the whole marketing strategy and campaign. So you're exactly right. When that money goes away, of course, the TDC funds will go back to using that. So you're exactly right. I think we've got that accounted for and tracked in this. But good catch. I mean, that's not going to be there forever. But we don't have any recurring operating cost other than the marketing, and then those will be used from the TDC fund. So you're exactly right.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Yes, ma'am.
Wallace Mahout, 5500 Cox Road, Milton, Florida. I have to agree with Etta. I do not agree with bringing the TDC into county employment. As the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Nobody's stolen any money yet. If everything is open like it is now, and there are checks and balances in place. If it's going to cost more to have them employed in-house, don't do it. It's working fine as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Jim Young, 5049 Basin Avenue. I've just got a clarification I'd like to ask for. These positions right now, as Commissioner Williamson said, are being funded by taxpayers, but it's through the bed tax. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all through the tourist development.
Right. So 100% of those, the employees being considered to be taken under the county as the county employees, will they still be funded with TDC funds?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. We're not going to have something coming out of general fund for employees and an increase in the funds available through TDC. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is. It's what we've been saying. This is a TDC function. It's funded by
so if they come under the county as employees, the funding will come.
The funding, it stays right there. The funding comes to the county. The TDC.
I just went over my head.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Good discussion. Recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 4 is discussion of an allocation of $43,915 for the Navarre Beach Sea Turtle Conservation Center and Marine Sanctuary areas. This will be coming from the TDC reserves as recommended by the Tourist Development Council. I recommend that we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 5 is discussion of the appointment of Vernon Compton to the Tourist Development TDC as recommended by the Tourist Development Council. You have the details in your backup. The lady with that job has changed jobs and no longer fits the statutorily required occupation, so I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection.
I do not have an objection. I just have a question.
Certainly.
Is there anything with the Tourist Development Council as far as public officials? Because I know Mr. Compton is a candidate for office and may be a council person as of next August. I'm just making sure we're not going to be in the same case a month from now or 6 weeks from now approving somebody else. I just wanted to see if that could be checked.
I'm not sure what the answer to that is. Ms. Jones, do you have an answer, immediate answer?
I do know that the city does have a member on there. I'm not sure how that would impact this particular thing. It could or couldn't be, but
it may well impact. And but the city's is the planning director for the city, and that's who.
I think Mr. White had been serving in that capacity, if I recall. But at any rate, is they have a designee. So
you're right. Mr. White was an elected official as well.
And I think Ms. Jones would be right. We probably need to get you an answer on that.
We'll move that to Thursday just for final discussion and have an answer to that specific question by then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't have an objection. I just wanted to make sure we were mindful of that in case there was a conflict.
It's a good question. We'll move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 6 is discussion of scheduling of the annual TDC-sponsored Navarre Beach Sand Sculpting event, September the 26th through the 28th, 2014, including the week of September the 22nd through the 29th of 2014 for assembly, disassembly, something we do every year, and it's a big tourist attraction. I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 7 is discussion of proposed amended lease with Peter Pence Aviation Center. Mr. Walker.
In your packet, you see this was the matter that came before you at the last meeting. We had gone back to try to determine what what are the requirements of the Federal Aviation Administration, and ask Jonathan Ignacio with Hatchmont McDonald that serves as our aviation consultant on this to outline kind of the issues on this and make some kind of recommendation about what fair market value would be. And in your packet, you see the email from Mr. Ignacio to me regarding the FAA requirement for the fair market value, kind of an industry standard that he notes that's been static based on fair market value since 2007. And his statement was that the land rental rate for aeronautical use and unimproved land with access is anywhere from 27 cents to 37 cents per square foot per year. And you'll notice that he offered some of the 4 rates inside the state of Florida, which included Titusville, Clearwater, Southwest Florida, and then the Ocala International Airport that really kind of ranged from the 22 cents a square foot at Ocala to, I guess, 45 at Southwest Florida, which I guess would be Fort Myers or Naples, somewhere in that area. But that just kind of at least gives you a frame of reference for what I had forwarded. This, I did not have the Milton Aviation Partners. I did not have their email, and I had forwarded that to Ms. Jones and to Commissioner Cole just to see if we could get some kind of response from that on those people.
Yes, sir, just a minute. I'll yield to you in just a second.
And that's it. I just, John, the Hatchmont really did it. That was a very good job on kind of briefing the issues and kind of what we had to.
I agree, and I appreciate it. It's a very, very insightful piece of paper, but I'd just like to make one comment before I yield to Commissioner Cole. We don't want to be punitive in our rate. I'm very familiar with these airports, having plunked around this part of the world most of my life as a professional pilot. We're a rural area more closely aligned with Ocala than anything else. And while I want the county to get fair market value, we don't need to overlook the economic impact of expanding the airport. Commissioner Cole.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Walker, through the chair, Mr. Walker, do we, for the amount that they're requesting, has anybody done the math on that?
I have not. I think Roger said it's 65,000.
0.6 acres?
You're going to need to speak up. Nobody can hear what you're saying.
Approximately 65,000 square feet, 1.6, 1.4 acres, something like
and
that.
how many? What's the dollar figure?
At 20 cents, that would be just
Looks like $1,800 or something.
$1,800 a month.
Something, I'd have to do the math.
Is that based on 22 cents a square
That'd
foot?
have to be a year, yeah.
Would that be a year? But we'll do that.
All right, you get those details for us for Thursday, and we can.
And I understand what you're saying. That was where I was trying to at least show the range of the 22 to the 45. Obviously, we certainly are going to align more towards the lower end of that scale.
Yeah,
but I also want to be sure that we can defend it from the FAA.
Right. We're not a metropolitan market like all of those other than just Ocala. Commissioner Cole, you have anything to add before we move on?
Staff will get me those figures. I'll get with Mr. Cullum so we have an answer by Thursday. But with all the growth we've seen out there on that side of the airport, and now with the addition of the light flight helicopter, I think it'd only be a positive move.
I agree. We'll move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 8 is discussion of the request for the use of the Navarre Park Saturday, October the 18th, 2014 for Joy Fest. Details from the backup. I recommend we move this.
Could I ask that we kind of defer that? I needed to get some more information from the people. They've asked for some items that we don't control. So if you'll let me come back with that.
All right, we will carry this forward to Thursday without objection, and you'll have an answer by Thursday, or do you need more time?
I mean, or not. Let's just see. We need to talk to them again about it.
All right, well, we'll move this to Thursday without objection, and we can pull it Thursday if you don't have the details we need.
Thank you.
All right, I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 9 is discussion of the renewal of annual contracts with SCS Engineers, GeoSync Consultants, and DHR Engineering Incorporated for ongoing landfill and environmental consulting services. Details are in the backup. I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 10 is discussion of task order number 2 with the Tidal Basin Government Consulting LLC for disaster recovery administrative services for service dates of June the 2nd, 2014 to July the 31st, 2014, and I do so without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Would you please hold the conversations between yourselves, sir, Mr. Mullins? We can hear you up here. I appreciate if you just save those for the break. We moved item number 10 without objection. Hearing none, it passes. We move that to Thursday. Item number 11 is discussion of proposal from Dasher Technologies in the amount of $60,776.14 for replacement of storage area network equipment for the computer department based on comparison shopping. Recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 12 is discussion of the annual detailed work plan budget for mosquito control as required by the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and authorize execution of the related documents. I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 13 is information only. Public hearing items scheduled for 9:30 Thursday, July the 10th, 2014, is an amendment to Ordinance 2012-01 regarding economic development incentives, and it will be correcting a numerical error. I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. That concludes the administrative engineer's report. Mr. Blaylock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first item is a discussion of the professional services agreement with Coastal Technology, our beach monitoring and our beach renourishment consultant. Michael Walther is here, and I'd like for him to give a presentation, and then we have an action item to follow his presentation. So, Michael.
Good morning, sir.
As Roger indicated, I am here to give you an update on the status, a brief history and the status of this project, and the action item before you entails some physical monitoring, some surveys in order for us to get a good handle on the condition of the beach. And of course, I'll give you an opportunity to ask some questions at the end of this and identify the next steps that we envision moving forward. For perspective, prior to the 2006 nourishment and restoration of Navarre Beach, it's very common with the passage of hurricanes, including Ivan in 2004 and Dennis in 2005, where the storm surge and waves just went right over the barrier island and washed sand off the beach underneath the buildings and push it back on the road and back into the, up and actually in some of the canals on the landward side of the island that occurred, go back even further, and occurred in 1995 in association with Hurricane Opal. In 2006, in March 2006, Weeks Marine was engaged by the county in collaboration with state funding to pump sand from a borrow area roughly 4 or 5 miles offshore, using a hopper dredge to go out and literally suck the sand off the bottom, come in and connect to a buoy connector here, and then pump that sand directly onto the beach and spread the sand throughout the beach area in order to rebuild the beach and dune that had historically existed. And if we look at the before condition in the top left of this panel and the after condition, you can see a very dramatic effect, and over almost 3 million cubic yards replaced over 4.1 miles, total cost of about almost $20 million. The funding was 58% state, 38% was funded by an MSBU, and 4% for the county, according to County Lands. We had envisioned an 8-year renourishment interval where we'd come back and put more sand on the beach. Now, a key note in that figure, I'm going to come back though, is that dune feature, which predominantly remains intact, and I'll come back to that, but that dune feature has tremendously reduced the amount of overtopping of the island and provided significant stability to upland properties and beachfront properties. In 2010, there was a small touch-up in the western portion of the project where some sand was brought in by truck using money from the county and from FEMA. FEMA helped pay for that. And that restored the portion of the dune in the western portion of the property, western portion of the project, only about 12,000 cubic yards replaced. 75% of that funding came from FEMA, with the balance from the state and the county. The conditions on the beach now are generally, the beach appears to have done better than what we had thought throughout most of the beach. This is looking west at the pier just yesterday, and there are a lot of people on the beach yesterday, and throughout the pier region and most of the eastern portion of the project, the dune's in pretty good shape, and there's still quite a bit of beach there. But as we go further west, this is at Beach Access 10, we can see where the beach has begun to be eroded up into the dune and the dune face, and where now the water line is just waterward of the beach access stairs here, the ADA ramp that exists at access number 10. Then if we go a little bit further west near access 12, and that last building in the top center of the photograph, that's the last brick building in the project area. That last portion of the project, the dune, there's really remnants of the dune remaining, although there's still quite a bit of beach out there. That dune has been, in the western portion of the project, has suffered the most. In the grand scheme of things, where the dune is intact, we just need to come and build the beach out again and put back that wide berm, which provides protection, provides recreation beach, but also protects the dune, preserves the dune in the event of extreme storm events. On the western portion of the project area, we'll need to put more sand and actually rebuild the dune feature and fatten up the beach some more in order to provide some protection. And as part of that, we're looking to expand a little more fill into the western portion of the project in order to improve its performance. Based on 2012 surveys, the most recent surveys that we have, we estimate the total cost of the construction to re-nourish the beach at about $15 million. And at this point, we have obtained a DEP permit. I'm happy to say we have a 15-year permit from DEP, which would enable the project to be re-nourished in the future with an administrative approval based on what particular borrow area is proposed. But we will have to submit the plans and specifications to DEP, which we're just about finished with. We're waiting on some Corps permits. And most particularly on the Corps permit, the Corps issued a public notice on November the 8th of last year. We received some consultations from the National Marine Fisheries in terms of essential fish habitat and endangered species, but they have not yet finalized their agency action, even though they've had draft permit items since November. I'm meeting with the Corps of Engineers this afternoon in the hopes of trying to expedite that. And I'll note that the county has, go ahead, Roger, the county has also submitted a letter to your congressional delegation asking for assistance. The hang-up that we see between the Corps of Engineers and the National Marine Fisheries is happening all over the country. There's some lack of coordination between the two agencies that has led to a backlog in the Corps sending every project to the National Marine Fisheries, which has backed up their workload, and we're now moving forward to see if we can't expedite and move that forward. This is the status from a National Marine Fisheries staff person that we just got an email last week on July the 2nd. This is verbatim right out of her email. She said that they're looking at some updates to the biological opinion, but that it is expected to go to the General Counsel of National Marine Fisheries. It's the next step. But they have no control over that General Counsel, so they can't identify when that will occur. We hope that the county's letter to your congressional delegation and our discussions with the Corps of Engineers today will hopefully move that forward. In terms of funding, you may recall last December we presented to you a brief summation of different funding sources, including federal, state, and local funding. On the federal level, we have identified the potential to pursue the Army Corps of Engineers as a funding source. We think it'd be 2023 at the soonest. If you started last December, you may be aware that Walton County has received a federal authorization, no funding as of yet. They've been at it for over 10, 15 years, I think it is. But that is a long-term thing that may or may not come about. But the county has received some FEMA monies in order to offset some of the impacts of the most recent storms, and that is applicable to engineered beaches like Navarre Beach, and some of that federal funding is carrying forward. On the state side, this is a summation of the funding that was appropriated by the legislature this last legislative session. The yellow line right there corresponds to the Navarre Beach project. Based on my discussions with DEP and also with the FSBPA staff, the legislature had identified a certain amount of funds, and then they don't fund anything beyond that. In this column, then the appropriations and the LBR, the local government budget requests, those numbers came directly from DEP, from data that they distributed last week. And I'll note that in the far right-hand column, you can see some red numbers. Those are the differences, and the red constitutes where a local government had requested money but was appropriated less than they had requested. I'll also note that the last red number in that column is for Wabacho Beach Park, which had been in the funding stream for the prior 3 years, but finally rose up to be funded in this past year, but they still didn't get all the money they asked for. In the aggregate, based on my discussions with DEP staff and FSBPA staff, we expect that the project will be funded next legislative session. And go ahead, Roger. That application for funds is due by August the 4th. We're working with Mr. Blaylock and Mr. Walker to bring that forward. The DEP staff will probably make their recommendations by January. It'll go to the legislature and typically brought forth in the budget that's released by DEP in February. And then the state appropriation is concluded by March. Now we're talking March 2015 now, and those appropriations would become available typically by July of 2015. On the local level, we've looked at a different number of options from our December presentation to the board. You may recall we looked at the general fund, the tourist tax, the MSBU, the Navarre Bridge Pole or sales tax. And the county can pursue any of all of these to meet the local project funding needs. And currently before you, you'll be considering at your meeting on Thursday is a proposal to move forward with monitoring as required by the permits from the Corps of Engineers and DEP for the original 2006 project. If we had gone to construction this year, we would not need these surveys. But insofar as construction has been postponed, the survey and the monitoring report is required. Based on that survey, we'll estimate the actual volume change we need to restore the profile and then update the plans according to those surveys. And our next step, unquestionably, we've got to focus. We're very focused on getting the National Marine Fisheries consultation, the Army Corps of Engineers permit. We'll wrap up the final design and the bid contract documents. The county will ultimately need to identify the local funding mechanisms, and then we'll then be ready to go to bidding and construction to likely occur roughly a year from now. And with that, I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Questions from the board? Comments from the public? Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Commissioners, one thing to note is our funding level. If you'd like to mention that DEP, how we've raised that up, I think that was very important.
I think we were at 48-point-something%, and the DEP, with a little bit of coaxing on our part, has agreed that the Navarre Beach project now is fully qualified for the maximum state funding at 50%. So we got a little more percentage from the state. They finally saw the light. We've been trying to lead them to it for some time, but they've finally recognized and accepted that.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Cole.
Thank you. Has there been any talk from the state from increasing the funding source, or identifying a new funding source or additional funding source for this statewide knowledge?
There is, in fact, a movement in that direction, Commissioner Cole. I expect you're aware there's a constitutional amendment on Amendment 1, I believe it is, that would generate funding. And as expected, the general expectation is that that constitutional amendment may pass, but certainly in concert with the potential passage of that constitutional amendment, FSBPA, the Florida Shore and Beach Preservation Association, is actively working with its members to identify the funding needs for beaches. And clearly, the historical target of $30 million a year, which goes back to 1998, is outdated. And we're anticipating that something closer to 45, 50 million in that neighborhood, but that is something that's being looked at through FSBPA and through DEP staff also in order to increase that level of funding.
And through your eyes as a professional on this, do you see the way the state administers this or the way that it's done to be, I don't want to use the word fair, but equitable and to the best use of the dollars? Example, I'd like to see that, a state agency decide an area of beaches that are worse, whether it be multi-county or individual county, and work that entire stretch, because we all know the cost occurred for mobilization, demobilization. So professionally speaking, do you see that being done? Are they maximizing that usage, or are they just randomly picking, and are we spending a lot of money for MOB and demob?
I think I would say yes to all of the above, and I'll try to elaborate for you, and that and respond this way, and that the rules that are currently being employed by the department that were applicable to this last legislative session were adopted last August. And the state has very great difficulty in promulgating these rules, and there was great debate and disparity among members of the state local governments that participated in that rulemaking process. And so there's still plenty of room for improvement to improve how the state does these rules. And in fact, it is an active issue that the legislature is expected to address again this next legislative session. We thought they might this legislative session, but clearly the general consensus among my colleagues and most local governments is that the way the state appropriates funds needs improvement. I'll say it that way. And there is more efficiency that could be realized and more projects that could be funded more fairly. I hope I've answered your question.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mr. Blaylock, you mentioned something for an action item.
He had brought it up, and the action item would be approve his scope and fee to do that monitoring work that will be required now for 2014.
Why does that need to be approved today versus Thursday?
I'm sorry, for Thursday, action item for Thursday, sir.
Okay, I misunderstood you when you said action item.
And I apologize.
All right, I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Oh, come on, Sam. Mr. Mullins.
Sam Mullins, 5922 Allentown Road. I had a question when you were talking about the funding, and you said there was a state amendment or a ballot issue. Is that correct, that some of the funding would be coming from? Let me ask you, is this the amendment that is being, or a ballot issue that's being sought where they take a portion of the dock fees? Okay, I want to warn y'all. I found out about this last Friday, and I was warned by a member of the Escambia County Republican Executive Committee. This is a ballot initiative to undo what the governor has done, where they'll personally carve out a section of the dock fees, which will create a reoccurring fund for the state to purchase lands for Florida Forever, which is taking, again, property off our tax rolls. So I want to warn you about it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll certainly keep our eyes peeled for that one. All right, let's proceed.
Item number 2 is a discussion of a resolution and the local agency program agreement with FDOT. This is for the design of the sidewalks along Tiger Point Boulevard in the amount of $6,500. And this is a fully reimbursable expenditure by the state. This is worked through the TPO priority enhancement list, and it's come up, and recommend this agreement.
All right, I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes.
Item number 3 is a similar agreement. It's the discussion resolution and local agency program agreement with FDOT, and this is for the design of the mill and resurfacing of County Road 184A, which is Berry Hill Road, in the amount of $119,000. It also is fully reimbursable by the state. We used to do these with joint participation agreements, but now the state have moved all these into the federal highway program called the LAP program, and we'll have an action item coming up where we'll be asking the board to advertise for engineering consulting services, because we have to meet all the federal highways requirement for our plans and specification and permits, and that's item number 4.
All right, well, let's deal with 3 first. Are you through with 3? All right, I recommend we move item number 3 to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Item number 4 is, as Mr. Blaylock just briefed, it's for advertising the consulting engineering services. Are there any questions from the board, comments? I recommend we move item number 4 to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes. Go ahead, sir.
Item number 5 is the discussion of the Pine Blossom contract modification with Brown Construction in the amount of $35,177.20, and Avis Whitfield would like to speak to that. Avis?
Mr. Whitfield?
If I could give just a little bit of background before we discuss the modification. The project on Pine Blossom Road is a replacement of a storm drain, which serves, it was put in some 30 or so years ago, and it serves to protect a number of properties as well as Pine Blossom Road, Happy Hollow Drive, some county roads from flooding. So it's a very important storm drain. It's a storm drain that's nearly a half mile in length. The depth of the pipe in the ground is about 14 or 15 feet, which makes it a very difficult project to work on. It was very difficult to install initially. The pipe started to fail over the last couple of years. It failed in a number of places, and that's the reason we went out for bids, and the board had approved a bid in a meeting, just a meeting or two back. We were very happy with the price for the low bidder. We were very happy with the contractor. It was a very reputable contractor. The price to place this nearly half mile of concrete pipe came in at around $390,000. Many of the bids were over $700,000, and we thought that would be more likely the price range we would be looking at. So we were very pleased to get a reputable contractor at $390,000. Well, once we saw how reasonable the pricing was for the contract, we at Public Works started to talk about, a possible modification that we've often seen in some of our projects with the NRCS, Natural Resources and Conservation Service, over the years. We've done a number of the emergency watershed projects, and the NRCS engineers often designed into those projects 6-inch perforated pipe, under drains, if you will, that would be laid on each side of your primary pipe that's for the stormwater. And what the purpose of the under drain pipes was to alleviate groundwater, to get that groundwater away from that pipe. And we felt like this might be a good modification on this system. We do have groundwater problems in the area. That's one reason for the failures that currently exist that require the replacement of the pipe. Now, granted, the 6-inch to do this modification, to lay these 6-inch perforated pipe filter sock on them to alleviate the groundwater is not going to enhance the capacity of your main 42-inch concrete pipe. It's not going to enhance that. What it's going to do for you is enhance the longevity of that pipe by keeping that groundwater away from that pipe. And one reason we thought this might be a good modification is that because the pipe is so deep in the ground, because it's so difficult to work on, that one repair in the future, even if it's 10, 15 years from now, would probably cost in excess of this $35,000 it would take to do this modification currently. So again, it's one of those things that it's not absolutely necessary to do, but we look at it more as like an insurance policy. We feel like it's a great insurance policy, keep that groundwater away from that pipe. And the reason you want to keep that groundwater away from that pipe is because this is concrete pipe. You have joints every 8 feet. We have already designed into it one insurance policy of wrapping each one of those joints with filter cloth, which if they pull apart a little bit, that'll keep sand from infiltrating the system. But if you have a greater problem, those pipes pull apart very far because of groundwater problems, then there could be a failure in the future.
Yep.
So we just felt like, again, not absolutely necessary that you do this, but we feel like it would be a really good insurance policy for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Whitfield. I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes.
Item number 6 is a drainage easement that we've secured on Lot 41 within the Pine Glade subdivision. This is allowing us to expand the Ramblewood Drainage Project, HMGP. This is a lady that has, I'm sure, responded to you, Miss Gwen on Glen Street.
I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes.
Item number 7 is also a 20-foot drainage easement on Lot 30 for that same project. What this facilitates is allowing the move from Glen to Browder.
I recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes.
And finally, item number 8 is a discussion of the approval of the construction plans for Pelican Bay. This is a 42-lot subdivision in Working District 5.
Okay. I recommend approval without objection. Recommend we move this to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes.
And that concludes the engineer's report.
Okay, Public Services Committee, Commissioner Lynchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 is discussion of approval to submit a CERT grant in the amount of $13,000 with the match requirement being provided through in-kind services. There's backup in your agenda package. Unless there are any questions, I'll move this to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
And that concludes Public Services.
Thank you, sir. You ready for a break? You good? Okay. Public Services was complete. Public Works, Commissioner Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad to see a couple items on my committee. Y'all finally have trusted me enough in the last 2 weeks where you put a couple items on the committee. Our first item is a discussion of Contract WS 929, which replaces Contract WS 779 with the Florida Department of Corrections for one inmate work squad assigned to the Road and Bridge Department. There's a backup item there if you'd like to look at, but I'd like to move approval without objection to Thursday.
Hearing none, it passes.
Item number 2 is discussion of scheduling public hearing on the proposed right-of-way vacation of the southern portion of Commerce Way bounded by Commerce Road on the south, Garden Road on the north, Lot 245 on the east, and Lot 243 on the west in the replat of Lots 207 through 226 Avalon Park as recorded in Plat Book D, page 44. I'd like to move to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Could I speak on this one a moment, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, as we move it to Thursday, what Public Works would recommend on Thursday is to deny the request for the right-of-way to continue to a public hearing for the right-of-way vacation. And the reason is we've already have an objection. Roger, can you put that map up on the...
Well, let me ask you to shoot this to us in writing, please, and we will certainly follow your suggestion. You're the expert in this field.
Okay, I can either do it Thursday or now if you'd like me to.
Well, go ahead and brief it now, but send us something or an email when we finish this sometime during the day.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, you see on the map the area highlighted in yellow is where Mrs. Smith, I believe it is, lives, that opposes this right-of-way vacation. And the reason she opposes it, her only way out is she has to go due south, which and I mean, that kind of appears to be a lot due south of her, but it's really a right-of-way. And, well, it's not, I'm sorry, not due south. Go a little bit east, Roger, and then you'll see where we've got the arrow pointing to the requested right-of-way vacation right there. Well, just north of that is where she has to come through that's part of the right-of-way. And she has, that's her only way out, is to get to get to Garden Road there, just south of her. Because Fairlands is not a county-maintained road. It is not open going east and west of her, so she has to come out to Garden in order to have access to her home. In times of flooding, both ends of Garden get underwater, and so she has to use the area that's been requested to be vacated for her access to Commerce Road. And so because of the access problems this would create for Ms. Smith, we feel like it would be best if the county did not vacate this right-of-way.
Okay, so well, I can see one question that I would appreciate you answer us by Thursday. It just appears from the pictorial here that there is an alternative route for her, which would be to, I don't know, is up north on this map? All right, well, if up is north, if she went directly to whatever that road is in the subdivision, it appears to offer an alternative to her just on the surface. So would you clear that up for us as well?
Yes, sir. We'll follow up on that, and I think you're absolutely right. She could make the loop through the subdivision and come out to the west on Garden and get past the flooded area and get out through that way.
If you could get us those details, it'd help us.
Sure.
Thank you.
Glad to.
All right, we've moved that to Thursday without objection. Mr. Winfrey, do you?
That's all I have today, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, sir. Budget and Finance, Commissioner Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 is discussion of bids received for one 6,000 gross vehicle weight, half-ton four-wheel drive pickup truck for Environmental Land Department. Low bidder meeting specifications of Sub-City Ford Incorporated with a bid of $20,510. Move that to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Item 2 is discussion of bids received for re-roofing of the Gulf Breeze Library Building. Low bidder meeting specifications is Edward Roofing Incorporated with a bid of $108,609. I do have a question for staff. It seemed like, didn't we roof this within the last 4 or 5 years?
No, sir. This was re-roofed, or portions of this were roofed when, in 1996-97, when the Gulf Breeze was added on to. I believe we discussed it during your capital list, maybe within the last year or so, because we knew this was coming up. But no, it's not been. It's not been roofed. That's where you saw it. I, quite frankly, would note that this is a much better price than our estimate had been. I believe, if you'll recall, the estimate was somewhere around $230 something thousand. So this was a much better price than we had estimated.
I'll move it to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Item 3, discussion of budget amendment 2014-146 in the amount of $390,355. Carry forward funds in the Road and Bridge Fund for the Pine Blossom Road Drainage Repair Project as approved at the June 26, 2014 Board of County Commissioner regular meeting. Do so without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Item 4 is discussion of budget amendment 2014-147 in the amount of $26,562 to carry forward funds in the Var Beach Fund for change order number 1 to the contract with Pensacola Concrete Construction Company Incorporated for the Var Beach Water Main Rehabilitation Project is approved at the June 26, 2014 Board of County Commissioner regular meeting. Move that to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
Item 5 is discussion of budget amendment 2014-148 in the amount of $20,510 to carry forward funds in the landfill fund for a 1/2 ton four-wheel drive pickup truck for the environmental department. Do so without objection.
Hearing
Move
none,
to
it passes.
Thursday without objection.
Yeah, moving it to Thursday without objection. Hearing none, it passes.
Item 6 is a discussion of budget amendment 2014-149 in the amount of $60,780 to transfer funds from the capital fund to the general fund to replace the failing storage area network system in the emergency management building. And do so. Move it to Thursday without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
And the final item is discussion of county expenditure and check register, which I'll vent and have to your office by Thursday, so I move that to then without objection.
Hearing none, it passes.
That concludes this report.
Thank you. Public forum. Anybody with anything to say to the board, please?
Jerry Cooey, 6049 Arnie's Way. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Sorry I wasn't able to make it for the courthouse discussion. I want to remind everyone again that we are cutting it close on time here. I would also say that every person that I've talked to, every meeting that I have been to, the Pea Ridge property will not hold its head up. It's a bad deal for the county, $63,000 an acre, bad deal. We don't need to go down that road. Consistently, every meeting that I've been in, current location or somewhere in East Milton, over and over and over. And again, I will say, and I believe Commissioner Williamson said it earlier today, the overwhelming majority of folks that I talk to say the Board of County Commissioners should pick one. Again, we are running close on time here. I would suggest to you that since we have a 2-week time frame to have nighttime meetings, I'd like to encourage this board to consider that at the Thursday meeting, to set up 1 or 2 more nighttime meetings, and let's make an attempt to wrap this up. Good, bad, or indifferent, it needs to be down to 1. I still think the support's there. Again, I stand here with my olive branch in my hand saying, let's please get this done. I think we can. No, there's been a lot of votes and there's been a lot of discussions, and those votes can just as easily be changed. Let's strive for 1. Let's get the numbers right and complete this project. We're getting ever so close to the point of saying we better wait, because I will express again, my fear is that if we don't get this right and we put it on the ballot anyhow, it will be lost, and it will be another 2 or 3 years before we get a shot at it again. Let's forget about past arguments that we've had. Let's forget about past arm wrestling we've had. Let's pull this thing together. Let's get it down to 1. Let's get it a manageable item so that we can start promoting the idea and get it out to the people. But definitely, please schedule a couple more nighttime meetings. Those, as you have all attested, has brought forward your best public input to date. I would encourage all of you to do what Commissioner Williamson did. Have an individual town hall meeting. A good crowd there, 75, 80 folks, all energized, and there was some arm wrestling in that one. There was some disagreements, but a lot of good things came out. But a couple more, 1 or 2 more nighttime meetings. Let's wrap this thing up and get unified on this board. That's my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cooey.
Oh, there we go. Sam Mullins, 5922 Allentown Road. I want to concur with Mr. Cooey. You know, we do need a courthouse, and he was one of the ones that first came to the county commissioners with an olive branch and said that, you know, the people would support putting a courthouse on property that was either already owned by the county or that was being donated. But they would not stand for further purchases of property by this county commission. And that's where we're at. I'm telling y'all, this is what I'm hearing too. I'm hearing the same thing that Jerry's hearing. We travel different circles, so that's the circles that are telling us what they're wanting. They're wanting the commissioners to be good stewards of our tax dollars. So I would appreciate it if you would take that into consideration, and if we could at least, if you're going to put it on the ballot, at least get it down to 2. If you can't get it down to 1, at least get it down to 2 and let the people vote up or down. But please put 2 pieces of property that's not property that we're going to have to spend millions of our taxpayers' hard-earned dollars, my hard-earned dollars, to purchase. Secondly, the second issue that came up today with the fellow on the beach renourishment, something we definitely need to do. And I just wanted to reiterate, not really sure because I haven't seen the ballot initiative, but I've been warned, and I want the commissioners to go look at that because I think it is very important. We've had the issue before with the county commissioners about land being purchased and being pulled off the tax rolls. We had one of the commissioners say, well, it's just pennies on the dollar, but where do we stop? Where do we stop taxing the property owners? You know, we've got to live within our means. We've gone to a point where we've done things like riding arenas, tennis courts, boating ramps. You know, those things are great and wonderful. But when we're talking about drainage issues, roads, courthouse, those are the essential parts of government that we need y'all to stand up for us on and to be good stewards of our tax dollars. This state issue, I believe, is a bad deal. We need to look into this because from what I've been told, this is going to set up a reoccurring permanent fund for Florida Forever and groups like that to purchase property and pull off the tax rolls and create these nature conservancies and along our creeks and rivers. If we continue to do this, people, there won't be any private property. Government and these NGOs, they'll have all the control. We'll become a socialist communist country. This is what communism does. They take property out of private ownership and turn it over control to government and special interest groups. So please, y'all need to look at this. This is an early warning. I think this ballot initiative needs to be looked at because if we're going to start taking dock stamps and taking a portion of that money and using that to purchase property and pull it off the tax rolls, then we're going down a bad road. Thank you.
Really appreciate the heads up on that. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. Is anything else to come before the board? Speak now. Seeing none, hearing none, we are adjourned.